Brandon, you've made a smooth transition from the NFL to the real world. When you look back at everything that you've accomplished, man, 970 catches, over 12,000 yards, 21 receptions in one game. What do you look back on and say, I'm most proud of?
I will have to go back to when I first realized that football wasn't my purpose, but was my platform, and that was on the campus of McLean Hospital. 2011, diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and I just had phenomenal experiences learning who I was and just breaking down some of my belief systems, which helped me actually just become better in so many other areas of my life, and inspired me to build things that could help people be better. So that's the thing I'm most proud of is the start of that mental health journey on the nonprofit side. Um, it's cool scoring touchdowns. It's cool making it to the NFL. That was an amazing journey. But when you are in position to potentially save a life, and that's a phenomenal experience.
I've talked to Brian Dawkins about his battle with depression and a few times and had some really deep conversations with B Doc about it. And one of the important hurdles that he talked about is trying to end that stigma that's associated, Brandon, with like mental illness, that men should just
Yeah.
suck it up and deal with it on your own and man up and all this nonsense, right? But it's important to actually seek the help, to understand that you're not alone. What issues did you have to face, deal with, and overcome in your battle?
Well, I mean, there's so many. Isolation, small bout of depression. Um, for me, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. The best way to describe that is it's a emotional disorder. Being able to self-regulate when you're dealing with stress. Um, you know, are the feelings valid? 100%. But do you have the skills to be able to cope? And I didn't have those skills, so I had to go to McLean Hospital and join dialectical behavior therapy groups, cognitive behavior therapy, mentalization, self-assessment. I started with a clinical evaluation, a neurological evaluation, see what I was dealing with, see if I was capable of change. And for me, the journey has been really interesting, really impactful, transformative, and I just know that everybody deals with something. It affects all of us because if it isn't us, it's our neighbor. And it's just important for us to be able to identify, what people may be dealing with. For me, uh, borderline personality disorder presented itself different than the people I was in the same group with that was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So I'm just thankful that I'm still here today to be able to tell my story and encourage others. A lot of people always ask me, like, okay, what are you doing today? Well, look, I still talk to someone. I talk to people when I need to, and I also try to stay ahead of it. And I think that's important part of our routine. We also have a routine where we're taking care of ourselves physically, but at the same time mentally, and being able to deal with stress, especially now. There's people dealing with anxiety and depression for the first time ever because of racial tension, because of COVID-19. Um, so I appreciate giving me this opportunity to talk about mental health. And a lot of people you can look at just my career. It was just a lot of highs and a lot of lows. But I'm just glad that I was able to turn things around to have halfway through my career and be a guy that people can lean on and depend on.
How did that having that disorder impact your relationships, especially early in your career? Because I would imagine you would have some kinds of maybe lashing out or whatever it may be, whether it's with
Yeah.
teammates, with coaches, with people. How did it impact?
Well, yeah, man. Yeah, my life was a living hell. It was a struggle. But I think the biggest thing for me was what people didn't see. It was, the anxiety that I didn't even know I was dealing with. It was being uncomfortable in my own skin, going to the gas station, 100 degrees outside in Miami, having a hoodie on and bending down and moving in a way where like, oh, if I turn this way, people won't recognize me and see me. And that because I didn't want to sign an autograph, but just because I was just uncomfortable. So there's a lot to it. And, it's just one hell of a journey, but now I'm on the other side.
Brandon, what would you say to the men who look at this, and obviously this is something that affects everybody, men, women, young, old, whatever, but specifically those who still hold on to that stigma, as I mentioned earlier with B-Doc, like, hey, just deal with it on your own and suck it up and be tough, right?
Yeah.
Be tough.
Yeah.
What would you say to those guys? Because I mean, here you are, a professional.
You're not really a man. You're not really a man. Like real men, you got to face things, right? You can't just face your strengths. You got to face your challenges and your weaknesses. And it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And the best way to come out on the other side is talk to people. Ask questions, ask for help. It's okay. We're built that way. We're trained that way. And you got to understand it's not just you, it's all of us. You go back to, our childhood when we're kids. A little boy fall down. What do we tell that little boy? We tell that little boy to get up. Boys don't cry. So right then and there, we're telling that guy not to, teaching them not to connect with those emotions. And then if a little girl falls down, we're telling her, oh, it's okay. We pick them up. We validate them. We validate those emotions or that pain they're feeling. So we got to understand that it's something that's just been embedded in us since we were kids, and we got to break that cycle by understanding that it's important to connect with emotions. When something's going on, a lot of times we express it in anger, we express it in rage, and or shutting down. It's time for us to ask, like, what am I actually feeling? What emotion am I feeling? Am I sad? It's okay to say I'm sad. You hurt my feelings, right? Men, we don't do a good job of that. And it's time for us to change that conversation.
One of the things you're also involved in is a podcast, I Am Athlete, which you launched that during the pandemic, and you guys already in 6 months have over 100,000 subscribers, which is pretty impressive. What led you to want to do this, and what kind of topics do you discuss with the guys on there?
Yeah, so we definitely launched this in the middle of a pandemic. And, the goal was to have organic and real conversations. I've been on Showtime for 7 years now. I do a 5-day-a-week show, First Things First. I mean, on FS1, First Things First. And I just think people are tired of the traditional approach, guys sitting up in suits and ties and talking about X's and O's and statistics. And people want the curtain peeled back. People want to hear, the stories in the locker room. People want to get to know the characters more. So I just feel like, not only what I'm doing, there's other athletes out there doing it as well, that is peeling back the curtain and taking people inside the locker room. And that's I Am Athlete. In our locker room, we're not just talking about football. To be quite frank, we're in the locker room, we're talking about business. We're talking about what's going on in the entertainment world. We're talking about, media. We're talking about other sports. We're talking about culture. And that's what I Am Athlete is an organic conversation. But we're always leaving people with something that can potentially change their life. We're talking about finances. That was a amazing episode people really connected with, the way we talked about our own failures, the things that we had to deal with when it came to family. Like, we all can have those issues. Like, we can all relate to family issues and challenges, marriage, relationships, mental health. So it's a cool conversation, and we have a lot of characters. You look at Channing Crowder, he's that guy that always goes there. You always need a guy like Channing Crowder that has no filter at all. And what he always says is the only people that can hold him accountable is his wife. And if his wife likes it, he's cool. And she's like, look, I know my husband. So she allows him to go out to the deep end. Fred Taylor's like that old dude. Now I'm gonna say that old dude, he might get mad at me for saying that, but Fred Taylor is like that grandpa that's in that rocking chair on the front porch that you'll go to every Sunday, and you just sit there and you listen to his stories, and you're like, wow, he's so wise. And I think the audience really connect with him because they learn something every single time. And Ocho, I think what makes him special is that he truly is somebody that stays the same, no matter if he's on the field, if he's on South Beach, if he's on a show. He's always just making people feel loved and amazing. His viewpoints on life and just different topics, is just interesting. So, obviously he's one of the biggest characters that football has ever seen. So he's always interesting to listen to.
He's certainly one of those characters, and certainly a tremendous wide receiver back in his time, as were you. When you look at the league now, I know Devontae Adams recently, and I think he was pushed to say this because he was asked a question. It's not like he volunteered, Hey, I'm the best wide receiver in the game. He was asked, and he said that I got no problem with guys having that kind of confidence. Some people might not like it, but you need that swag. You need that confidence.
100%.
Who do you look at in the game today in 2020 and say, man, those guys are the top?
Well, first of all, there's 32 teams, right? We all know that. That doesn't mean that there's 32 number one wide receivers. When I look at a number one wide receiver, a dog wide receiver, I'm looking at somebody who can beat man to man. Anybody could catch 100 balls in zone because you have a great quarterback, you have a great offensive coordinator, guy who can just dial it up. For me, I'm looking for that guy 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 that can win on the slant, no matter how good the corner is. Like, this is a gotta have it moment. Back shoulder, Justin on the ball. What does this dude do in the red zone? Does this guy want the ball in those tough situations? Almost like a basketball player. Throw me the damn ball right now. And when I think about that, I'm looking at DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs. You got Julio Jones still out there. You do have some young pups. Devontae Adams. Like, this dude, he can easily be the number one wide receiver because nobody can cover him. Nobody can cover DK Metcalf. Nobody can cover DeAndre Hopkins. But if I'm a general manager and I'm on the board and I'm saying, okay, who am I going to take at wide receiver to start building this team? I'm probably going to go with, and this is a hard one because I love D-Hop. D-Hop is the guy I know I can just throw it in his area and he's going to come down with it. But I'm really excited about DK Metcalf right now, so I would probably start with him.
DK's an absolute monster, man. He's a beast, and I can't believe every team passed up on him all the way up until the second round of the draft. Talk to me a little bit, Brandon, about that wide receiver quarterback relationship. How much as a receiver did you appreciate when a QB put the blame on himself and didn't throw his guys under the bus? Whether somebody runs a wrong route, whether somebody doesn't go hard for the ball, whatever it may be, and just says, hey, I got to do a better job rather than put it. How much did you receivers appreciate that?
Oh, we love that, because a lot of times, you get those I wouldn't say a lot of times, but there's some quarterbacks, right? They're the CEOs of the team. They got to lead up, they got to lead down, right? Their responsibility is just different. And there's some guys that, they don't know how to, point the thumb at themselves. And so it's refreshing when you have a quarterback that when they throw the ball in the dirt or when they throw a pick or when they make a mistake, they just look at you and they don't even have to say nothing. They just point at themselves, say, that's on me, right? By just their hand signals. So, it's refreshing to see quarterbacks do that. And I think the good ones do that. And you have to be a good quarterback, a good leader, one of the best. You have to be able to do that because now you maintain that credibility in the locker room.
You played a lot of your career with Jay Cutler, of course. You had time.
You were trying, yeah.
I wasn't going there. I ain't going there. I know you played a little bit with Russell Wilson. Was there a guy that you wish, man, I wish I had an opportunity to play at some point? I mean, obviously Tom. Yeah. Being who he is there somebody that you go, yeah, that guy, we could have done some special things?
Russell Wilson. I wish I played with Russell Wilson in my prime. When I got to Seattle, I was still banged up and the timing was all off. I still felt like I can contribute, but we had a couple of guys go down and I was thrown in the fire before I was completely healthy. And I just wasn't able to contribute. And, I was holding the team back. So, Russell Wilson is that guy. And I'm like, man, together we could we could have won a Super Bowl or two together. Obviously, he's already his second year in the league. He got one. Hopefully, he get another. But his mindset is what separates him from everyone else. This dude truly believes he's always in it. He truly believed that there's always a chance, whether he's down 30 points, or he could be on the verge of being eliminated from the playoffs, and he still believes and he's going to operate as if he has a chance. I love his mindset. I love how he leads.
Tell me about House of Athlete. I see the sign right there
Oh,
behind
yeah.
you, and what you're doing with House of Athlete. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so House of Athlete, I took my 13 years experience and infused that into this wellness concept. When I walked into the Jets facility, the Giants facility, all the guesswork was taken out of it for me. And it gives us that opportunity really to help people unlock their full potential, optimize their health. And we go back to the mental health thing, right? Like we talked about that. And that's what this is. It's normalizing just health. It shouldn't be a line between mental health and physical health. So when you walk into House of Athlete, you can come in here, you can get in shape, you have your meal plans, it's a cool environment. People love it. You're working out like an athlete. You may see some of the top athletes training in our facilities. But the coolest thing is we also have mental health practitioners on site. And we're sitting in those groups that I was in, self-assessment. So you can go into our app and you can lock a spot up for self-assessment. And we're going to sit there as a group and talk about what's going on. And I think that's why this movement has been so impactful and amazing in this short time, is because people are coming in and they're actually they're connected to other people. Because of social media, we feel like we know what's going on in our friend's life or in our neighbor's life. We feel like we're connected, but we're really not. Like we need to really do life with people, and that takes us sitting down having real conversations. So a lot of the stories that you may see on our page and our platform now is people, talking about connecting finally with their anxiety or depression after coming to House of Athlete. And that's what people want. It can't just be, oh, I'm going here to, talk to my therapist and then I'm gonna go train here. It should be all one. And that's one of the things that, I pushed the NFL for a very long time to do is it should be mandated that every team have a mental health practitioner on staff. Finally got that done 2 years ago. And now the next step for me is taking that mental health practitioner from the second floor, third floor next to the janitor's office and put them right next to the strength and conditioning coach's office, because it should be a thin line between impairment and performance.
Man, that's a great